Chair.
Councilwoman, or who? Oh, I'm sorry. Who? Oh, Sergeant Arms.
Or when you get done there.
So the vote was 12 yes, 4 no, and we're not voting. That motion passes. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the council here to consider everybody. I know some of you guys are talking. If you could take it outside when we're running the vote, the people are trying to vote here. So I appreciate you to have respect for the process and other council people when they're voting there, instead of not talking, having a conversation there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Arms, for that reminder. So I guess back to Councilman Steele. You had a suggestion. I don't know if you had a motion, but if you want to.
Well, I only had a question, and I didn't mean for the violin strings to come out today, but the only reason why I brought it up was that there has to be some type of, we have to have some type of sanctions, and I didn't say nothing about stopping anyone from going to church or preventing that. I'm just saying it's a message to these individuals that are bringing in these types of individuals. Some type of sanction needs to happen on the Dream Center. And, when the council rep said it, we all have that freedom of speech, each and every one of us. So we all say what we say, and that's that. But it was just something I've asked if there was some type of sanction we can do to this church for bringing in this individual. That was my question. Didn't mean for the violin strings to come out today.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Jumping Eagle, did you?
Chair, is there a way that we could fine them? You know what I mean? And maybe turn around and use that money to help, those families that, I know. Well, I'll save it till the treasurer is supposed to give his report, but we're getting a lot of requests on school clothes. We could find them that way and turn around and use that money for school clothes. Just a suggestion.
No, I think it's a good suggestion. It's a good conversation. All this is good. I know that, us as council, we have our different beliefs, and, ultimately, I believe, people have free will, whether it's, to believe this way, to believe that way, to do what they need to do. But that's taught from, our Sundance and our Lakota perspective. And I think that's one of the things to think about when we're doing this. We also have to make sure that, we're protecting our community, as Councilwoman Whitehorse said, is that we need to make sure that, these regulations are in place, because, we don't know who's coming here, and so this is a good dialogue, good conversation. And it's important that we just have this, because I'm not sure if other councils ever got to this point. I mean, I know it's been going on, but now we're trying to, do this. We're also trying to, there's also a lot of trauma that, these churches caused and all this kind of stuff. Believe me, I fought these same guys for 10 years in the legislature on some abuse bills, that wasn't pretty. And, and I see the tactics they used, at that level, and now that, the fifth member done his investigation as council asked, and, his recommendations are, he doesn't see any correlation between these two individuals, or this one individual, and the Dream Center. I mean, it's just important that we just kind of keep that all in perspective. And as far as sanctions go, I mean, I think we need to have something in place. We need something in place, just so that people know that, that they can't keep doing this kind of stuff, these kind of things and all this kind of behavior to go on. Because really, I mean, they should also respect the way that we believe, and just making sure that we're just stating those points. So, but if anyone else, I don't see anyone else want to make a motion on anything else. Councilwoman, but
I don't want to make a motion, but because it already passed, but I just don't think it's right that we're going to have to pay our attorneys to make any nonprofit or any charitable organization, whatever you want to call it, come into compliance. This should be their responsibility, not ours. This permission slip, whatever it is, release of information, that should be their responsibility. We shouldn't have to pay our attorneys to fix their issue. Because according to the ordinance, we're just supposed, or the executive board is just supposed to approve or deny. They're the ones who need to bring this to us. We don't fix it for them. Just letting that be known.
Yeah, no, and then when I know that when we were having that conversation, Councilwoman, I was actually at Sundance, so I was in the middle of a fast, so I was listening to all this stuff, so, and so I was just kind of getting caught up on all that stuff, but I know that, as an executive board, we did have issues. There was still a lot of unresolved questions, because I think one of the first applications we took, and there was a lot of applications that I would say about maybe seven groups reached out and sent emails to my email, and they're asking how to apply. But the first group that we took, they were like, okay, we'll do the background investigation, but is it the state of South Dakota's background investigation? Is it the federal background investigation? That wasn't fleshed out, and so we kind of halted that, and that's kind of where we stopped. So we'll figure this out as, I guess, executive board, and how to move forward. But also, I mean, what was the intent of the council on, what kind of background do they want? And is it just for these volunteers that come in 1 week, or, this come through like this individual Igor, he came through like maybe like for the week, and do we do a background investigation on those guys? Are they volunteers? I mean, that's what we're trying to figure out, the intent. What was the intent of, this motion? Go ahead, Councilman.
I think, the intent is to protect the people on the Pine Ridge Reservation and to protect our culture. And whenever the backgrounds, when we were discussing it, we were talking federal and state. Because we don't want somebody to come in who has a criminal history or who's going to be a predator on any of our members. And when you're registering, I think it would be a good idea if a application is questionable, or if you've heard anything, for the executive board to invite them in and interview them. Because there's no way from a background check you would find somebody like Michael Monfort if he doesn't have a criminal history. The only way you would know what his intent is if you meet him in person. And whenever we discussed the approving and denying, they're supposed to be for all of their missionary work. So if there's a special whatever they're going to do, fundraiser or whatever, then that would need to be approved before they do it. Where now people just come in, take pictures, go home, raise money, do whatever they want with it. We need to make sure that all of that assistance comes back to tribal members if that's what they're raising money for. I mean, I know that there's a lot of discussion on the Dream Center specifically, because this was where it started from. And maybe they do need to be held accountable in some way, but we also have to look at the other side of the coin. The Dream Center assists several tribal members, and they provide employment for several tribal members. We were not trying to focus on churches specifically, although there are some radical churches out there, but I think that if you take each one on a case by case, if there's questions, if there's any concerns, then you as the executive board have the authority to call in their leadership and ask them the questions that you have. But the backgrounds were federal and state, just to ensure there was no fraud previously or or predatory behavior.
All right. Yeah, no, thank you for that clarification. And, you know, one of the issues I think when we were doing the first application is, you know, it was like literally a church group that resides off the res, and they come in once a week to do services. I mean, I mean, if they're not located on the res, but if they're doing services here, is that the intent as well? I mean, that again, I'm just really trying to get clarification on this. So, or is it for churches based on Pine Ridge?
It would be for anybody doing services or providing services on the reservation.
Okay.
Even if, like, this is registered in Caputa, but they provide services in Porcupine. So any church that is based somewhere else but provides services here, not just church, but missionary organizations or even charitable organizations, should be registered.
Okay. Thank you. And so, and I guess that's the intent of the rest of the council. So that we'll kind of operate from that premise, and we'll try to figure out what's that. But it would be good to kind of have a fine schedule or some kind of something to hold these groups accountable. And we'll come back to that at some point. But again, you know, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that there's a process, and, you know, and I'm glad that, you know, we kind of tackled that part. But there's going to be all these questions that come up. In the example I just gave, you know, that's just for 5 people, you know, so who come down and all that and everything. So, and Councilman, go ahead.
Thank you, President Killer. Just one more comment on these. You know, we're still talking about these churches. We might as well just open up an immigration office for them to be processed through. They're all pilgrims anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Further questions, comments before we move on? Go ahead. Member.
Okay, again, I'd like to thank the council for having me do this. I've never been a investigator before. I watched a few shows on TV, and I asked the questions I thought I needed to ask. I might have missed on a couple, but you know, I did go out there and interview these people and came back with what I could find. Thank you. Have a good day.
Barney 5. So I think, so what action are we gonna take, Chairman and Council, on the church then? I mean, that's kind of what, I mean, we waited for the investigation. He found what he could. You know, they're making $1 million a year off of, you know, off our children, off our people. It was stated that Monfro or whatever it was out there, invited by Igor, but the 2 owners are claiming they have no knowledge of him. I mean, what are we gonna do? I mean, I think we have to do something, whether it's a fine or whatever.
I guess make a motion. Any council members want to make a motion on what that be? And we can take a break, maybe. Go ahead, Councilman. Go ahead, Councilman Queer.
You know, we have to be careful how we word this. Because the last time when we worded it, gee, it caused mass confusion on the res, man. And I don't want to get into that again. So if we do it, we need to be specific, because some of the texts that I'm getting now is in my opinion, if the people don't want to send their people to the Dream Center, that church, I don't know what kind of, or what they claim to be, but if they don't, then stop sending your children and stop going yourself. And it goes for all the churches, whatever they want to do. But the thing is, what do we do to them? Because if we do something, then the phones are going to start ringing, the misinterpretations are going to start coming again, that we closed all the churches and all that kind of stuff. That's why I say we have to be careful of how we word it.
Thank you, Councilman Still.
Yeah, I agree with, Councilman Puya there. We do need to specify and identify. You know, once again, we're not attacking all churches, but, you know, seems like we try to please those few people that text us and tell us, you know, I send my kids there and they're good. You know, that's good for your kids, but it's not good when they're bringing in someone that can harm our whole way of life. That's what we have to look at, the bigger picture. So when those few people text us and it changes our thought pattern on, you know, how to deal with this, you know, we get into this situation where we try to do what's best for the people, and then here we are, you know, we get chewed out for doing something, and it's not us that gets confused. Sometimes it's some of the people out there that misinterpret things and causes chaos, because we know what our intent is and what we're trying to do. But I still feel that there needs to be some type of sanctions, and because these people will bring in the next David Koresh, we don't know. So it's something that we have to take these steps with in making sure that don't happen. So like I said, you know, those few people that text us and tell us don't do it, you know, there's a greater silent majority out there that would benefit from our actions. Thank you.
Thank you. So council, I think, it might be good just to take a break right now and, just maybe visit amongst yourself on, you know, these, and we won't get away from this topic, but we can take a break until 12:30 because lunch is here too. So, and we could, do that, and then we'll come back at 12:40 and hopefully we'll have some, you know, some kind of clarity and all around this issue. And we'll just go from there. So we
Is
won't,
Buzz gonna let us visit?
yeah.
Councilman Jumping, you could visit now.
So, Councilman Ironclad, do you want to do the meal prayer?